Welcome to my new video series, where I will be taking on a hardcore Regionlocke challenge. In this challenge, I will be traveling through 4 different regions: Kanto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, and Unova. The rules of the challenge are listed in yellow text on the screen if you want to read through them. In essence, this is a Nuzlocke expanding over multiple regions where I will not use higher levels than the next gym leader. I am still allowed to trade with strangers for trade evolutions, but beyond that, I cannot acquire help from others in the game. I will be starting my journey in the Hoenn region and have chosen Mudkip as my first Pokemon. Along the way, I've caught a Zigzagoon in Route 101, a Wingull in Route 103, a Ralts in Route 102, a Maril in Route 104, a Shroomish in Petalburg Woods, a Taillow in Route 116, and a Whismore in Rusturf Tunnel. I will be skipping the EV training and leveling for the video and focusing on the key fights throughout the story. At the start of each gym battle, I will provide information on the various Pokemon I've acquired, so you can keep up with my progress without being overloaded with narration. Up in the right corner you will be able to see what the upcoming gym leader has to my knowledge. I hope you'll join me on this journey and see how far I can go with this challenge. Let's get started. The first gym leader I faced was Roxanne, and I decided to lead with my Shroomish, which had not yet evolved. I knew that all of Roxanne's Pokemon had the sturdy ability, so I decided to stick with Mega Drain to sustain a little bit rather than roll the dice for enough Bullet Seed hits to break through sturdy. However, thanks to Rock Tomb, her Geodude was faster turn 2 and onwards, which meant it was able to hit my Shroomish an extra turn before going down. Next up was Aaron. My first Leech Seed missed, and I found myself within critical range of a Rock Tomb by the time I had got the Leech Seed up on Aaron. So I decided to send in my Mudkip to take it out with a couple of super effective water guns. Roxanne's final Pokemon, Nosepass, made me realize that I couldn't get through this battle without something going down if it were to land a critical hit. And with this being relatively early in the challenge, I decided that I would rather be transparent about having to reset if it were to crit, so I stayed in with Mudkip, which I need to beat Watson later and can't afford losing, in order to break sturdy, before switching to my Maril and taking out Nosepass with 2 more Bubble Beams. Thankfully, I dodged that critical hit and was able to move on to the next gym challenge. The next gym leader I faced was Brawly, and I had my Taillow be poisoned by a Wild Wurmple beforehand. This activated its Guts ability, and with it being faster than all of Brawly's Pokemon, I found my way through the dark ready to show him the light. Brawly led with his ace, Makuhita, and sure enough, a single wing attack was enough to take it down. Even though my Taillow was taking residual damage from being poisoned, it was never at risk, and this fight was over in 3 turns with both Metatype and Machop going down in a single wing attack as well. With this victory, I was able to claim my second badge. As I made my way towards the next gym, I was ambushed by my Hoenn rival, Brendan, on Route 110. He led with Slugma, and rather than activating Flame Body and taking a Rock Tomb with my Gulpit, I switched into my Marshtomp to take it out with a Water Pulse. His next Pokemon, Grovyle, had me change back to Gulpit to better resist the incoming Grass move and take it out with a Wing attack. For Wailmare, I used my Breloom, now with Bullet Seed. And finally, for Taillow, I used Marshtomp with Rock Throw to finish the battle. Wally also tried to block my way into the gym, but both his Skitty and Ralts would go down to a single wing attack from my Gulpit, which had now evolved into a Crobat. The next gym leader I faced was Watson, and I led with my Breloom, which I had pre-poisoned in the wild. I knew that his Manectric had Fire Fong, which could burn, so rather than switching directly into Marshtomp, I decided to go with my Azumarill to bait the Shockwave or Volt switch before going to Marshtomp. Thanks to Manectric holding a Shuka Berry, Marshtomp had to use 2 digs to take it down. Marshtomp was still outside the range of a self-destruct and could use another dig to take out the Voltorb, proccing the static effect. For his Magneton, I could send in Breloom that would barely take more damage than it healed with its Poison Heal ability, securing the rest of the fight. With this victory, I was able to claim my 3rd badge and move on to the next challenge. I would pick up a Geodude by Rock Smashing in Route 111, a Numel in Route 112, a Coughing in the Fiery Path, a Swablu at Route 114, and a Spinda at Route 113 before taking on Maxie at the Mountain Chimeri. He would lead with Camerupt, while I had my Pelipper setting up the rain. 2 water pulses were enough to take it out, and next was a Kadabra with Shock Wave. My Marshtomp could take the hit and tank a Psybeam before taking it out with Dig. For my Tayana, I used 2 Mach Punches with Breloom. His Golbat went down to Crobat after a few wing attack trades, but Crobat would not be able to one-hit KO Houndoom. Houndoom was within range of taking out Crobat with either Bite, Incinerate or Thunder Fong, and with my Marshtomp being too low health to take 2 hits. I decided to go with Lanoon to bait a stab move, which would allow me to set up the rain with Pelipper and bait the Thunder Fong, allowing me to safely send in Marshtomp. However, I learned that Houndoom also has Snarl, so I was forced to switch into Azumarill to finish it off. Thunderfong did not paralyze me, and Aqua Tail did not miss. And with that, I avoided losing a water Pokemon against Maxie due to being unaware of the Snarl. With Maxie out of the way, I went for a short hike down the mountain to face Flannery at the next gym. She had a Camerupt, Torkoal, Slugma, and Numel on her team. My plan was simple: set up Rain and sweep her team. Torkoal has the Drought ability, so I decided to lead with Gyarados instead of Pelipper to perform a Rain Dance. This was because I didn't want to risk having to switch in on a sun-boosted Overheat. I took out Slugma with ease and did not get burned upon contact. Next, I sent in Pelipper to change the weather and take out Torkoal with a Water Pulse. This was because Torkoal's special defense was much lower than its physical defense. Even though Camerupt was holding a Pasho Berry, it could not withstand a rain-boosted X4 Water Pulse from Pelipper, and the critical hit didn't matter. Finally, I took down Numel and secured my 4th badge. With 4 badges, I was now able to use the travel feature between regions and headed over to Kanto, where I would pick Bulbasaur as my lead, beat Gary in a quick duel despite him getting a critical hit, catch Rattata in Route 1, Mankey in Route 22, Pidgey in Viridian Forest, Hoot Hoot in Route 2 before taking on Brock in Pewter Gym. Brock lead with his level 10 Geodude with Sturdy for my Bulbasaur. The second Razor lead missed, and with me being forced to switch anyway, I rather switch in on a level 10 Geodude resisting the Rock Throw than a random move from Onix maybe getting paralyzed by Dragon Breath with my Mankey. A low kick would take out Geodude, and another 2 would take out the Onix. I did avoid the paralyze from his Dragon Breath, and with that I had secured my first badge in Kanto. I caught Ekans in Route 3, Onix in Mountain Moon and Psyduck in Route 4 before taking on Misty and her team of Starmie, Psyduck and Goldeen. My Noctowl had great special bulk, and with Echoed Voice gaining 40 power per turn it is used in succession, it was a great pick for the fight. I started with a Reflect to also be safe on the physical side before attacking. Psyduck went down in 2, and she sent Starmie next. A 120 then 160 powered Echoed Voice would take Starmie out as I hit through Confusion Ray. And a 200 powered Echoed Voice would one-hit knock out the last Goldeen. I would use the same strategy for Gary, but not bother with setting up Reflect as he lead with Abra. An 80 powered Echoed Voice took out the Rattata in a single hit. Next he sent Charmeleon, but that too would go down to a now 120 powered Echoed Voice. Pidgey managed to quick attack before going down to a 160 powered Echoed Voice. Gary was beaten. I caught a Bellsprout in Route 24, a Meowth in Route 25, a Growlithe in Route 5, an Oddish in Route 6, a Diglett in Diglett's Cave, and a Drowsy in Route 11 before entering the SSN. I decided to ignore all the trainers and go straight for the next rival battle. Gary's evolved Raticate managed to prevent me from using my usual Echoed Voice strategy by flinching me a couple of times, but Noctowl eventually managed to break through and take it down. However, without Reflect up and facing a Charmeleon with a low health bar, I wasn't confident that I could survive a critical hit. So, I switched to Psyduck. Charmeleon managed to survive Psyduck's first Aqua Tail, but instead of switching again and risking losing more Pokemons to critical hits, I decided to let Psyduck either go down to the crit or take out the Charmeleon. Next my Arbok intimidated Pidgeotto and took it down with a couple of crunches. My Drowsy chipped away at the Kadabra's health, putting it within range of a quick attack from Raticate. Gary ran off once again defeated, and I went to check in on the captain, who rewarded me with Cut before heading out for a new region. In Unova, I was immediately ambushed by Charon and Bianca in my own room. They were eager to have a Pokemon battle with me, testing my abilities before allowing me to go down and say hello to my third mom. I plan to do the first 3 gyms in Unova before taking on the Sinnoh storyline. Once I catch up to the level ranges in Sinnoh, I will also allow myself to use Pokemon I caught in other regions while taking on the rest of the challenge. I will adjust to the level of the next gym leader's ace Pokemon. I caught in Lillipup in Route 1 before taking on in Accumula Town, where my Lillipup could take out both his Zura and Purloin, then catch a Patrat in Route 2. Both Bianca and Charon insisted on another fight before letting me take on the gym, where I would face Cress and his Panpour along with a Lillipup. My Patrat defeated Cress's Lillipup with 3 bites, but barely survived a water gun from Panpour. I had to dodge a critical hit from Lillipup, but Tepig was ready as a backup. I secured the first badge after the intense battle. I caught a Purloin in Dreamyard before beating Charon in another rival fight, and having to beat a couple of Team Plasma members before I was able to go and catch a Woobat in Wellspring Cave, Blitzel in Route 3 and Timpole in Pinwheel Forest. N was waiting for me at the second gym, with a team of Pitto, Timber, Timpole and Zura. I used Arm Thrust at the Pitto, suspecting it to be a Zura, took out the Timpole with my Blitzel Shockwave, and the Timber with my Woobat's Air Cutter. Herdier would intimidate and take out N's final Pokemon, the Pitto. For the battle with Lenora, I led with Grumpig, while she started with Watchog. I used Flame Charge to boost my speed, then take it out next turn with Arm Thrust. However, I realized that a Dino could not be taken down in one hit if I low-rolled only 2 Arm Thrusts, and I would risk taking a critical Retaliate. So, I decided to use Herdier to lower a Dino's attack first, before defeating it with Rock Smash and multiple Retaliates. Lenora sent in her Herdier, which lowered mine's attack, and I concluded that Purloin was the best choice to sacrifice, as nothing could take a boosted Retaliate and deal with it. I could then use Pignite to take care of the Herdier with one final Arm Thrust combination. Bird led his Dwebble while I led with Pignite. I set up one workup and used one Flame Charge to boost speed before taking out the Dwebble, but Bird sent in his Whirlipede next, which, although was in range of a single Flame Charge, also had Poison Point, which procced and caused issues for me. Down to 7 health points, and with 2 Pokemons remaining, I had to switch out to keep Pignite alive for later, which meant sacrificing Woobat and sending in Blitzel. Citrus Berry meant that even though I was faster, I could not take out the Levany with a second Flame Charge. However, I could not see any way to get out without another sacrifice, and I had to at least get it down within killing range for something else before going down. Herdier could lower Levany's attack with its Intimidate and take it out with a Retaliate. Swadloon took the next Retaliate without much issue, and put my Herdier asleep. I sent in Watchog on the Bug Bite, but yet again, after a crunch, Swadloon put Watchog asleep as well. Then used a Super Potion following turn as I stayed asleep. Another Bug Bite was used and Watchog stayed a second turn asleep. Third turn, Watchog finally woke up, crunched the Swadloon and barely lived the third Bug Bite before taking it out. 2 Pokemons were lost and I got close to losing a third, but barely got away with it. In worst case scenario, a 4 times effective Flame Charge from Pignite was a 100% one-hit knockout, and with no Pokemons remaining, I would also not go down to poison damage. In Sinnoh, I picked Chimchar for my starter, had a new rival fight with Berry barely beating him due to him having a critical hit during the fight. My fourth mom gifted me a new pair of running shoes and sent me off on my new journey. I caught a Bidoof at Lake Verity, a Starly at Route 201, a Shinx at Route 202, Abre at Route 203, Mewtwo at Route 204, Machop at Route 207. With that I was ready to take on Rourke. Rourke led with his Onix as I led with Machop. Having Sturdy on both his Onix and Geodude, I wanted to resist the Stab Rock moves. However, Onix also had Stab Bulldoze that also lowers speed. Low Kick would leave it at 1 health point and I was still faster taking it out at turn 2. Geodude was next, but luckily a low roll on Magnitude meant that I was safe even to critical hit, and with Bullet Punch, I could avoid giving him a second chance on a high roll. The Cranidos managed to crit with its headbutt, but even then, my Machop was healthy enough to survive and take it out with a single low sweep. For Mars, Monferno would take out the Purugly in 2 Mach Punches after taking a Fake Out and a Scratch. And Luxio would take out the Elekid with 2 bites after taking a Shockwave and Swift. By using Covet on Pokemon spawns from Rock Smashes, I was able to pick up a fossil to revive Cranidos as well as picking up a Pachirisu from Wind Valley Works. I led with Monferno against Gardenia's Grotle. Using Flame Wheel twice, Grotle went down, and Gardenia would send in her Roserade, which were holding a Koba Berry for a Flying-type natural gift, doing 60% to my Monferno before going down to a Flamethrower. Her final Pokemon, Share Rim, went down to a Wing Attack from my Staravia. An uneventful fight with Jupiter later secured me the regional bike as Thanks and I were finally able to move around at a half-decent pace in Sinnoh as well. I went on quite some catching spree, and all the Pokemons and their locations will be on the screen for you to see as the fight with Fantina is up next. Drifloon went down to a bite from Luxio and Fantina sent in Mismagius next. I switched to my Blissey being immune to Hex, which gave me the opportunity to set up 2 Calm Minds and take out the Mismagius in 3 Water Pulses. Haunter was next with his secret power, but that too wasn't enough as he went down to another 2 Water Fuels, leaving Fantina with her final Pokemon, a Duskull. I switched to my Luxio and took it out with a single bite. With Fantina beaten, and the ace of Maylene being level 30, it was time for me to go have a talk with my Sinnoh mom, as she had the power to send me back to my starting region, Hoenn, where I could pre-poison my Breloom and go back to the dog, to move to Kanto and challenge Surge. Having picked up a Metal Coat from a wild Pokemon using Covet earlier, I had trade evolved Steelix as well as Alakazam. This meant that Magnemite did not have any really damaging moves despite having Sturdy, and it only took 2 hits to bring it down. Raichu couldn't deal enough damage to overcome the healing from Breloom's Poison Heal and Leech Seed, and went down to a Bullet Seed within a short time. Elekid simply didn't have enough attacking power to pose a threat to my Steelix, despite having super effective Brick Break. Recognizing that the fight was over, Voltorb decided to end the battle for me by taking itself out. Like Surge, Elessa also had a level 27 as her ace, and I headed over to Unova next. Bianca and Sharon insisted on having 2 uneventful Pokemon battles with me before End posed a little bit more of a challenge. End led with a Sandile, and I went with Pignite. Not wanting to take a critical hit from Dig, and being slower, I switched into Staravia. This lowered Sandile's attack and allowed me to dodge the Power Herb boosted Dig, taking it out with a couple of wing attacks. For the next Pokemon, Daramuka, I wasn't certain if it was Azura in disguise or genuinely Daramuka. I figured Pignite could resist either of their stab moves, and wouldn't be threatened by anything that Staravia would be weak to. As a result, I went with Pignite as my safest switch. Apparently, N agreed, as he switched out from Pignite to a Sigilyph. I was left with the option of resisting a flying attack move with Luxray or being immune to a psychic move with my Tayana. Having to guess what N was going for, I went with my Tayana. A bite took out Sigilyph, and next up was Scraggy. My Rosalia could resist a fighting move and recover somewhat using Mega Drain to survive a second dark move before taking out Scraggy with another Mega Drain. Daramuka came in, and I decided to lower its attack with Luxio. But this turned out to be a mistake, as it turned out to be Zura with U-turn. This surprised me a bit, as I was certain Rosalia would bait a super effective Fire Punch move from Daramuka. Although, practically speaking, this made no difference, as both Daramuka and Zura would go down to Sparks from Luxio. This concludes the first part of this Regionlocke, and I hope to see you in the next one as I continue this path to beat Pokemmo, not only in hardcore Nuzlocke rule set, but while including all the regions doing it simultaneously. feel free to give any feedback as I invite criticism of any kind. I aim to complete all the gyms in Part 2, starting with Alessa before having a Part 3 with Elite 4. If I make it that far,